Kyle had always been an adventurous soul, and his penchant for spontaneity led him to book an errand for a night alone in a remote countryside cabin. The listing promised tranquility, surrounded by dense woods and miles away from civilization. It seemed like the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. As Kyle arrived at the cabin, he marveled at its rustic charm. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the trees. The solitude was both unsettling and inviting. Kyle settled in, eager to embrace the solitude for the night. As darkness enveloped the surroundings, strange sounds echoed through the woods. Branches creaked, and leaves rustled, creating an unsettling symphony. Kyle dismissed it as the usual sounds of nature, but couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling. He decided to distract himself by exploring the cabin. In the dim light, Kyle noticed peculiar paintings on the cabin walls. They depicted scenes of isolated cabins in the woods, each eerily similar to the one he was in. The unease crept back, but Kyle attributed it to his imagination running wild. As the night progressed, Kyle heard footsteps outside. He cautiously peered through the window, but the darkness concealed any potential intruders. He brushed it off, convincing himself it was an animal or a trick of his mind. However, the feeling of being watched lingered. Later that night, as Kyle lay in bed, a soft whisper echoed through the cabin. He strained his ears to decipher the words, but they were unintelligible. The whispering continued intermittently, creating an unsettling rhythm that disrupted the tranquility he had sought. Unable to shake off the eerie ambience, Kyle decided to check the cabin's history. To his horror, he discovered that it had been the site of mysterious disappearances over the years. The unsettling paintings were eerily reminiscent of the missing person's last known locations. Dread crept over Kyle as he realized he might not be alone in the cabin. The footsteps, the whispers, and the strange paintings took on a sinister meaning. Was he the next chapter in this chilling history? Kyle's nerves were on edge as he contemplated leaving the cabin, but a heavy fog had rolled in, obscuring the path outside. Fear gnawed at him as he realized he was trapped in this isolated place with an unknown threat. Desperation led Kyle to contact the errand post, hoping for answers. The response was cryptic, with the host claiming innocence and suggesting that the occurrences were mere figments of imagination. Kyle couldn't shake off the feeling that something sinister was at play. As the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, echoing hauntingly through the cabin. Kyle struggled to distinguish reality from paranoia. He decided to document his experience, recording the eerie sounds and taking pictures of the unsettling paintings. In the midst of his investigation, Kyle discovered a hidden compartment in the cabin floor. Inside, he found a weathered journal detailing the harrowing experiences of previous occupants. Each entry spoke of inexplicable occurrences, mysterious figures in the woods, and a pervasive sense of dread. The journal entries seemed to converge on a common theme: a malevolent force that preyed on those seeking solace in the cabin. Fear gripped Kyle as he read about the disappearances, all eerily mirroring the circumstances of his own stay. Determined to escape, Kyle ventured outside into the thick fog. The woods seemed to close in around him, distorting his perception. Strange figures lurked in the shadows, just out of focus. Kyle felt a presence watching him, taunting him with every step. As he stumbled through the darkness, Kyle discovered an abandoned shed. Inside, he found old newspapers chronicling the gruesome history of the cabin. The stories painted a chilling narrative of a vengeful spirit, seeking retribution for an unspeakable crime committed on this very land. The realization struck Kyle like a thunderbolt. The cabin was a vessel for malevolence, and he was entangled in a nightmarish cycle of horror. Determined to break free, Kyle set out to uncover the truth behind the vengeful spirit and find a way to escape the clutches of the haunted errand. Driven by a desperate need to unravel the mystery and escape the clutches of the malevolent force, Kyle delved deeper into the shed's contents. Among the dusty artifacts, he discovered an ancient necklace with a peculiar symbol, a symbol that seemed to resonate with the haunted past of the cabin. Guided by an inexplicable instinct, Kyle decided to confront the spirit and put an end to the torment. Armed with the necklace, he retraced the steps outlined in the journal entries, hoping to break the cycle that bound him to the sinister history of the cabin. The fog thickened as Kyle approached a clearing in the woods, a place where the malevolent force was said to be most potent. Whispers intensified, urging him to turn back, but he pressed on, clutching the necklace for courage. In the heart of the clearing, a spectral figure materialized. It bore a haunting resemblance to the depictions in the cabin's paintings. The vengeful spirit spoke of betrayal, tragedy, and the need for redemption. Kyle, now understanding the dark history that plagued the land, presented the necklace as a symbolic offering of repentance. The air grew heavy with tension as the spirit considered Kyle's plea. A chilling wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it the weight of the past. The spirit, appeased by Kyle's sincerity, began to fade away, leaving the woods in an eerie silence. As the fog lifted, Kyle felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The oppressive atmosphere that had gripped the cabin dissipated, and the haunted whispers ceased. The paintings on the walls took on a more benign appearance, as if the malevolent force had finally been laid to rest. In the days that followed, Kyle documented his harrowing experience and shared the truth with the world. The Airbnb listing for the cabin was taken down, and the malevolent history was brought to light. Kyle, forever changed by the ordeal, moved on with a newfound appreciation for the thin veil that separated the living from the supernatural. The woods, once a source of dread, transformed into a symbol of resilience and the triumph of human spirit over malevolence. Kyle's Airbnb horror story became a cautionary tale, a whispered warning for those who sought solace in the shadows of the unknown. As Kyle ventured back into the world, he carried with him the lessons learned from that fateful night alone. The haunted cabin was no more, but its story lingered in the quiet moments, a reminder that sometimes the past has a way of reaching out from the shadows, seeking resolution and redemption. This time, he found himself in a quaint town nestled between mist-covered mountains. His Airbnb, an old Victorian house, seemed perfect for a night of solitude. As he stepped through the creaky door, a chill ran down his spine, but he dismissed it as a natural reaction to the ancient architecture. The dim light revealed an interior frozen in time. Dusty furniture adorned with fading doilies stood like silent witnesses to a bygone era. Scene felt a mix of excitement and trepidation, knowing that he was alone for the night. He brushed off the unsettling feeling, attributing it to the eerie charm of the historic residence. As the night wore on, strange sounds echoed through the corridors. Creaks and whispers danced in the air, and Scene began to question the wisdom of choosing such an unconventional lodging. The unease intensified when he discovered an old photograph in a dusty frame, a family with hollow eyes, staring into the void of time. Determined to shake off the growing anxiety, Scene decided to explore the town. Yet each step outside the house felt like a step into a different reality. The townsfolk, with vacant expressions, regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. It was as if they knew something he didn't. The feeling gnawed at him, amplifying the sense of isolation. Back in the Airbnb, as the clock struck midnight, Scene noticed an old diary on a neglected shelf. Its brittle pages told tales of a tragedy that unfolded within the very walls he now occupied. A family, driven by madness, had met a gruesome end. The entries became more erratic, detailing a descent into darkness that sent shivers down Scene's spine. As he read, a distant noise reverberated through the house. It sounded like footsteps, slow and deliberate. Scene's heart raced as he followed the sound, leading him to a locked door in the attic. The air grew colder, and a voice, barely audible, whispered, "Leave before it's too late." Fueled by a mixture of fear and curiosity, Scene knew he had to uncover the secrets hidden within the attic. Little did he know The diary had only scratched the surface of the horrors that awaited him. With trembling hands, Sean searched for the key to the mysterious attic door. The diary's words echoed in his mind, warning him of the malevolent presence that lingered within the confines of the old Victorian house. The townsfolk's eerie stares now made sense, as if they were silent guardians of a sinister truth. The key, hidden among forgotten trinkets in an antique drawer, felt cold to the touch. As Sean approached the locked door, the air thickened with an oppressive energy. With each step, he could sense the weight of the house's history pressing down on him. As the door creaked open, a gust of icy wind rushed through, extinguishing the feeble flame of his flashlight. In the pitch-black darkness, Sean's breath hitched as the sounds of a distant wail pierced the silence. He fumbled for his phone, the feeble glow casting eerie shadows on the decrepit walls. The attic revealed a scene frozen in time. Dusty furniture draped in white sheets, cobwebs hanging like ethereal veils, and a peculiar antique mirror reflecting the chilling emptiness of the room. In its dim surface, Sean glimpsed fleeting shadows, distorted figures that seemed to move independently of his presence. A sudden gust rattled the windows, extinguishing the candles that flickered on a forgotten altar. Sean's breath caught in his throat as the room plunged into complete darkness. Panic set in, and he fumbled for his phone, desperate for any source of light. In the dim glow, Sean saw apparitions manifesting. Ethereal figures draped in tattered clothing, their faces twisted in anguish. The air grew thick with sorrow as their mournful cries echoed through the attic. He recoiled in terror, realizing he had unwittingly unleashed the tormented souls trapped within the confines of the Victorian house. Haunted by a relentless presence, Sean stumbled backward, desperate to escape the spectral grasp closing in around him. The diary's warnings echoed louder, urging him to flee the malevolence that now seeped from the attic into the very fabric of the house. As he descended the creaky stairs, the once charming Victorian now felt like a suffocating labyrinth of despair. The townsfolk, their expressions now contorted with grief, stood as silent witnesses to Sean's unwitting involvement in the tragic tale that had unfolded within those walls. It was a chilly autumn night when Sam decided to embark on a solo adventure, seeking solace in a quiet errand tucked away in the remote outskirts of a small town. He longed for a break from the hustle and bustle of city life, and the promise of a cozy cottage seemed like the perfect retreat. As Sam arrived at the address provided, he couldn't help but notice the eerie silence that surrounded the area. The cottage, a quaint structure with ivy-covered walls, looked inviting from the outside. Sam hesitated for a moment before unlocking the door, half expecting a creaky hinge or a mysterious draft. Upon entering, a shiver ran down Sam's spine. The air inside felt thick, and an inexplicable sense of unease settled over him. Trying to dismiss the feeling as a result of tiredness, Sam explored the cozy interior. As he settled in for the night, strange noises echoed through the empty halls, and shadows danced ominously on the walls. Night fell, and Sam lay in bed, the only source of light being the dim glow of his phone. Just as he started to drift into sleep, the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed in the corridor outside his room. Frozen in fear, Sam strained his ears, but the footsteps abruptly ceased. Convincing himself it was merely his imagination, Sam forced himself to sleep. However, as the night progressed, he was jolted awake by a series of blood-curdling whispers. Unable to discern their origin, Sam's heart raced as the voices seemed to converge around him. In a fit of panic, he turned on the lights, only to find the room empty. Doubting his own sanity, Sam hesitated before deciding to leave the room and investigate the source of the haunting whispers. Sam cautiously navigated the dimly lit corridor, the floorboards groaning beneath his every step. The air grew colder, and an oppressive feeling weighed down on him. The whispers persisted, leading him to a room at the end of the hall. Hesitating for a moment, Sam pushed the door ajar. The room revealed a sight that sent chills down his spine. Old, tattered furniture covered in dusty sheets, a flickering lamp casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. The whispers grew louder, forming indecipherable phrases that echoed through the abandoned space. As Sam approached a cracked mirror, his reflection seemed distorted, as if mocking him. He felt a presence behind him, and with a sudden jolt, he turned around. The room was empty, but the whispers now seemed to come from within his own mind. Desperate for an explanation, Sam decided to leave the haunted room, only to find the once familiar hallway transformed into an endless labyrinth. Panic set in as he realized the layout of the cottage had inexplicably changed. The walls seemed to close in, and Sam felt trapped in a nightmarish puzzle. The whispers grew louder, now forming distinct words that resonated with Sam's deepest fears and insecurities. Shadows danced menacingly around him as he struggled to find an exit. Each step led him deeper into the web of the cottage's mysterious maze. As Sam stumbled through the disorienting corridors, he couldn't shake the feeling that the cottage itself was alive, a malevolent entity toying with his sanity. With each passing moment, the whispers intensified, revealing dark secrets and long-buried memories. Will Sam find his way out of this nightmare, or is the cottage's dark history destined to consume him? The chilling journey into the heart of the Airbnb horror story had only just begun. Sam, disoriented and terror-stricken, pressed on through the shifting corridors. The whispers now seemed to guide him, urging him to uncover the truth behind the cottage's sinister past. As he navigated the maze, he stumbled upon a hidden room filled with old photographs and cryptic symbols scrawled on the walls. The images depicted a family that once called the cottage home. The whispers grew more coherent, revealing a tale of betrayal, tragedy, and restless spirits seeking vengeance. Sam realized he had unknowingly become entwined in the ghostly drama that played out within these haunted walls. Determined to break free, Sam followed the spectral whispers to a dusty attic. There, he discovered an ancient diary that chronicled the agonizing events that had unfolded decades ago. The spirits, bound by a tragic fate, sought closure through Sam, the unwitting intruder who had reopened the wounds of the past. With newfound understanding, Sam endeavored to help the tormented souls find peace. He conducted a ritual, following the instructions outlined in the diary, and the air in the attic crackled with supernatural energy. The whispers ceased, and an otherworldly calm settled over the cottage. As the first light of dawn pierced through the curtains, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Sam found himself standing in the familiar hallway. The maze vanished, and the cottage now eerily silent. The once haunted room at the end of the corridor appeared ordinary, devoid of malevolence. The Airbnb horror story had reached its resolution. Sam, exhausted and shaken, emerged from the cottage with a newfound appreciation for the thin veil that separated the living from the lingering echoes of the past. As he looked back one last time at the ivy-covered structure, Sam wondered if the spirits had finally found the peace they sought, or if the cottage would continue to lure unsuspecting guests into its spectral embrace. The chilling tale of that fateful night would forever linger in Sam's memory, a cautionary reminder that some horrors lie hidden beneath the surface of the seemingly ordinary.